while the parents are working, while the stress is tough. Just remember the following. Go for a daily dose of nutrition. Go for a balanced meal with variation. Go for a round or two of exercise. Aim for healthy lifestyles. Inspire others to do the same. The story of life is no game. Life doesn't need to end that fast. If you choose health, the longer you last. Go for a daily dose of nutrition. Go for a balanced meal with variation. Go for a round or two of exercise. Aim for healthy lifestyles. Go for a daily dose of nutrition. Go for a balanced meal with variation. Go for a round or two of exercise. Aim for healthy lifestyle. Live longer, happier, better with FNRI.
Based on 2008, WHO estimates 60% of all deaths in our country, which is 800 daily, is caused by non-communicable diseases. There are 4 major categories of NCDs: cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, chronic respiratory diseases, and some cancers. Filipinos continue to be exposed to the risk factors of NCDs. Physical inactivity and unhealthy diets are major contributors to the rising cases of NCDs. To combat NCDs, FNRI, DOST, DOH, NNC, and WHO agreed to come up with a new food guide for Filipinos. In 2014, the Pinggang Pinoy Healthy Plate for adults was first introduced to the public. It is a food plate showing the recommended proportion of food groups in every meal. It conveys the message that half of the plate is occupied by fruits and vegetables, while the rice and protein groups make up the other half, with more rice than protein. The guiding principles underlying the development of Pinggang Pinoy are based on the following philosophical goals: evidence-based, promoting good health, focus and total diet, realistic, useful, practical, flexible, evolutionary. Pinggang Pinoy is a translation from nutrients to food based on the best available scientific evidence, with due consideration to nutritional advocacy and usual dietary pattern. It shows the three basic food groups: Go, or rice and alternatives; Grow, or fish and alternatives; and Glow, that is divided into two portions: fruits and vegetables. Drink lots of water every day for adequate hydration. Since individuals' energy and nutrient needs vary based on age, sex, and level of physical activity, FNRI DOST also developed Pinggang Pinoy food plate for the other age or population groups. Children 3 to 5 years old, children 6 to 9 years old, children 10 to 12 years old. Male adolescents, female adolescents, male adults, female adults, male elderly, female elderly, pregnant, lactating, proper diet along with regular physical activity can maintain good health and help prevent obesity. With healthy food choices following Pinggang Pinoy, plus healthy lifestyle through regular physical activity and avoidance of cigarette and alcohol, comes the healthy Filipino nation.
"4 years and counting." With over 2.8 million website users, FNRI is a trusted source of food, nutrition, health in the Philippines. Home to 6 components: ISS, iServe, iLearn, iBusiness, iPromote, and iAdmin. The harmonized information and communication technology hub of the Department of Science and Technology, Food and Nutrition Research Institute is now expanding to serve you better. FNRI Reimagined. iTrain is a new addition to the group. Users can now enroll in face-to-face online or offline trainings and watch, learn, and enjoy nutrition videos anytime, anywhere, while earning continuing professional development credits with iTrain. We also upgraded the original components. Nutrition counseling is now online. We also have new nutrition tools to aid users count their calorie intake with the Healthy Eating and Lifestyle program online. Prepare and serve healthy meals by calculating energy and nutrient content, quantified recipe and food costs of your recipe or menu using the Menu Eval Plus. Download the latest National Nutrition Survey data using public files for free. Know if your area is on track of meeting their nutrition targets with eNutrition. Rate the food's characteristics using science-based assessment that is convenient, efficient, time-saving, and many more with enhanced sensory evaluation laboratory. Access 1,500 food items with photos and many more nutrition data using the Philippine food composition tables. Do you want to know how much Filipinos eat? Perform basic to complicated statistical analysis using the food consumption data of the National Nutrition Survey with the Food Consumption Data Dietary Exposure Assessment. Thinking of starting a business? Learn more about DOST-FNRI's products and technologies and become one of our adapters using the Electronic Technology Transfer Monitoring Map. Undernutrition is a persistent problem in the Philippines. Be part of the solution. Be part of the DOST package advocacy for the improvement of nutrition of young children. Need nutrient, biochemical, and microbiological analysis results? Avail our services and track your status using FNRI Service Laboratory Integrated Online System. FNRI is also home to the first accredited Philippine food proficiency testing provider in the country. Learn more about this new service. Check out the FNRI Proficiency Testing Laboratory website. Locally available but internationally comparable reference materials. The improved FNRI reference material portal allows direct access on clients' purchase, from tracking their reference materials from designated courier to extending feedback to FNRI. Learn more about nutrition while having fun. Access the different modules of nutritionschool.ph. Play nutrition games with iLearn. New data, more features, available 24/7. start exploring the new website. Visit i.fnri.dost.gov.ph.
Everything today is faster. Everything today is easier. With technology getting better, it doesn't mean we're getting healthier. While the kids are young, while the parents are working, while the stress is tough, just remember the following. Go for a daily dose of nutrition. A balanced meal with variation. Around a 2 of exercise. Aim for healthy lifestyles. Inspire others to do the same. Story of life is no game. Life doesn't need to end that fast. If you choose health, the longer you last. Go for a daily dose of nutrition. A balanced meal with variation. Around a 2 of exercise. Aim for healthy lifestyles. Go for a daily dose of nutrition. A balanced meal with variation. Around a 2 of exercise. Aim for healthy lifestyle. Live longer, happier, better with FNRI.
Alam mo na ba na may bagong gabay para sa lakas at kalusugan mo? Simple lang at madaling tandaan. Ang tawag dito'y pinggang Pinoy. Gulay at prutas, 1/2 ng plato. Kanin o tinapay, 1/3 ng plato mo. Isda o karne, 1/6 ng plato mo. Ito na ang pinggang Pinoy. Sa moderong pinggan, sukat na sukat, bawat pangkat ng pagkain. Pagkaing balanse sa nakatatanda, mainam din sa bata.
Pinggang Pinoy.
Gulay at prutas, 1/2 ng plato.
Pinggang Pinoy.
Kanin o tinapay, 1/3 ng plato mo.
Pinggang Pinoy.
Isda o karne, 1/6 ng plato mo.
Pinggang Pinoy.
Pinggang Pinoy.
Ito ang bago, Enhanced Nutriban with Carrots. Try nyo! Dahil Enhanced Nutriban, healthy rin to. Sisip ito sa vitamina at minerals tulad ng vitamina A, iron, calcium, potassium at zinc, bukod sa enerhiya at proteinang dulot nito. Higit sa lahat, ito ay zero trans fat and no cholesterol. At meron pa rin milky taste na tiyak magbubusuhan ng buong pamilya.
Good afternoon, naimbag nga malim, maayong hapon, magandang hapon sa ating lahat. and welcome to the third day of the DOST-FNRI's 47th seminar series on food and nutrition researches and SNT activities virtual edition with theme Good Nutrition in the First 1,000 Days is Starting Right is the Right Start. So you have seen a video right before we start. The video shown an excerpt of the field data collection for the third year of the expanded National Nutrition Survey. We are gladly announcing the resumption of its data collection for this year. Data collection was halted in 2020 because of the restrictions and enhanced community quarantines imposed during the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. And now we are finally commencing the data collection of the remaining areas. So the first deployment, as shown in the video, started last July 1 at the province of Tarlac. So hello to our respondents and researchers in Tarlac. Also, one of our teams is already in Mindanao. So they were deployed in Cotabato City last July 5. So as in the previous surveys, we are again asking our governors, local chief executives, the members of the regional, provincial, and municipal nutrition committees of these 37 areas for your invaluable support and for the target households and individuals for their cooperation and participation. So we at the DOST-FNRI will make sure to protect both our researchers and respondents while conducting the survey through proper coordination and following strictly the health and safety protocols in this pandemic. So pre-survey coordination meetings are ongoing, and also online training for researchers who are nutritionists, dietitians, and nurses will also resume after the seminar series. So we are in need of researchers, especially for Visayas region. Okay, all right, so today is the day 3 of the FNRI seminar series. Pangatlong araw na po tayo, and we hope that you have learned so much from the previous technical sessions starting from day 1. I am Miss Christina G. Malabad, your moderator for this afternoon's technical session. Before we start, please allow me to share some important reminders. This technical session is simulcast live via DOST-FNRI official YouTube channel. To register for the seminar, kindly scan the QR code or go to link shown in the slide. However, as of this moment, the registration is closed as we have already reached the maximum capacity for the conference. So please make sure to fill up the attendance form by clicking the link provided in the chat box. And for our registered YouTube viewers, make sure also to fill up the attendance form which is provided in the chat box. This is needed for your PRC CPD units. So kailangan po tayong makapag-fill up ng attendance form. So for post-test, this should be answered after the session in the FSS website. The post-test will serve as your logout for this technical session. So failure to answer post-test will mean that you did not log out for the session, and also failure to provide the correct FSS technical session code will nullify your post-test. So hence, you will not receive certificate for the session. The FSS technical session code will be announced at the end of the session. So stay with us until the end. Only registered participants will be given certificates for the 47th DOST-FNRI seminar series. This will only be available once you have completed the post-test and feedback evaluation forms for all the technical sessions until the last day on Friday. We will give you ample time. So 3 days after the event, after the seminar series, to accomplish post-test and evaluation forms, and certificates will be available starting on July 12. Please feel free to ask questions during presentations by typing in your questions in the Q&A box below your screens. Our panelists will do their best to address all your questions during the open forum. Again, good afternoon, everyone. You are now attending the technical session 4 of the 47th FNRI seminar series, which is about the nutritional status of Filipino adolescents. Adolescence is the phase of life between childhood and adulthood, from ages 10 to 19. It is a unique stage of human development and an important time for laying the foundations of good health. This is the age group which is often the most neglected among the age groups in the different life stages. But do you know that adolescents are the greatest resource for for a society to thrive? Sabi nga po sa kasabihan, ang kabataan ang pag-asa ng bayan. This is because investments in this group bring a triple benefit. Having healthy adolescents will produce healthy adults in the future, and that will bring healthy future generations. With the current trend of nutrition problems and underlying health comorbidities in the later life, adolescent nutrition is now being recognized and given attention in different local and national program planning and policy development. This afternoon, we will have 3 interesting research studies to be presented by our smart and diligent researchers from the Institute. Their studies will reveal the nutritional situation of Filipino adolescents and different factors to their nutritional status associated to their nutritional status and behavioral risk factors to non-communicable diseases. Findings of their studies are hoped to give us better understanding and more in-depth analysis of the adolescents and adults' health and nutrition situation. To begin, let me now introduce to you our presenters for this session. So our first presenter is Ms. Chona F. Patalen, a Senior Science Research Specialist of the Nutritional Assessment and Monitoring Division. Ms. Patalen obtained her Bachelor of Science in Community Nutrition from the University of the Philippines in Diliman and Master of Public Health from the University of the Philippines Open University. She serves as the study leader for the clinical and health survey component of the National Nutrition Survey and is a team coordinator for the expanded National Nutrition Survey since 2018. With her 2 decades of extensive R&D experience, she has been directly involved in several research studies in nutrition and risk factors for non-communicable diseases. She has authored and co-authored a number of published research works and presented some of the completed studies in international fora. She has also prepared policy papers in relation to identified nutrition problems from the National Nutrition Survey. Ms. Patalen is the author of the 2013 and 2015 Philippine Facts and Figures for Clinical and Health Survey and the co-author of the copyrighted DOST Pinoy modules. So for the second presenter, we have Mr. James Andre Justin, PC. He is a science research specialist, also from the Nutritional Assessment and Monitoring Division. Mr. C is a registered nutritionist dietitian who graduated from the University of Santo Tomas with the bachelor's degree in nutrition and dietetics. He is one of the young breed of nutrition researchers in the DOST-FNRI. His career as nutrition researcher began when he joined the Updating Survey in 2015 and eventually participated in different special projects that involve researches on care and interventions of persons with disabilities, persons who use drugs, and those with chronic kidney disease. As such, he already co-authored several journal publications on these topics. At present, he is assigned as one of the assistant team coordinator for Expanded National Nutrition Survey and the lead person for the training of field researchers for the data collection of same survey. So siya po yung pwede nating i-contact sa mga gusto pong mag-apply as local researchers. And finally, our third presenter is Ms. Josie P. Desnacido, the Science Research Specialist 2, also from NAMD. And Ms. Desnacido is a registered nutritionist dietitian who graduated from the University of the Philippines in UP Los Baños and obtained her master's degree in applied nutrition in the same university. She joined DOST-FNRI as dietary researcher in 2003. Since then, he worked hard and rose from the ranks to present position as Science Research Specialist 2. In her 17 years career in FNRI, she was able to author and co-author several researches that focus on topics on nutritional status and food consumption, including the 2013 and 2015 Philippine Facts and Figures on dietary consumption. Then she also is a resource speaker in several conferences and trainer, particularly for the conduct of the National Nutrition Survey. At present, she is one of the lead persons for the dietary component of the DOST-FNRI Expanded National Nutrition Survey. So with that, let us all welcome our presenters, Ms. Patalen, Mr. C, and Ms. Desnacido. So without further ado, let me now give the virtual floor to our first speaker. Please take it away, Ms. Patalen.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Tina, for the generous introduction. For the first presentation in this technical session on nutritional status of adolescents, sharing with you the results of a collaborative project of DOST-FNRI and the Department of Health on the assessment of selected risk factors for non-communicable diseases among adolescents and adults as part of the Expanded National Nutrition Survey. So for our disclosure, all authors declare that they have no competing interests or personal relationships that could have appeared to influence the information or survey data reported in this project and in this technical session. So globally, non-communicable diseases or NCDs kill a lot of people, and these account for more than 2/3 or 71% of the total deaths that occurred in 2018. And each year, 15 million people die between the ages of 30 and 69 years, or what we call as premature deaths due to NCDs. What is more alarming is that majority of these premature deaths happen in low and middle income countries. And in the Philippines, NCDs were also accounted for 2/3 or 67% of all deaths in 2016. where more than one-third or 35% were because of cardiovascular diseases. And the risk of dying before the age of 70 years was 27%, and it was higher among males. With the increasing deaths and prevalence of NCD risk factors globally, the World Health Organization launched this set of 9 voluntary global NCD targets in 2013. And these targets are aimed to be achieved by 2025, so that is 4 years from now. And DOST-FNRI has been tracking the prevalence of these selected NCD risk factors, shaded in blue, and actually reported our 2013 survey results as baseline. So as we all know, NCDs are lifestyle-associated diseases mostly reported among adults. However, these diseases are primarily attributed to risk factors that often begin during the adolescent stage. Hence, this is a pivotal period for the development of NCDs. In fact, nearly 35% of the global burden of diseases has its origin in adolescence. So patterns of behaviors established during this period have lifelong consequences for NCDs. So it is very important that risk factors are already determined at this stage in order to intensify our targeted responses and actions. So the objective of this project is to determine the prevalence of selected risk factors for non-communicable diseases among Filipino adolescents and adults at the national level. So this study utilized our expanded National Nutrition Survey data, particularly the different NCD risk factors collected under the Clinical and Health Survey component. So in order to generate national level data, replicated sampling was employed in selecting the provinces and highly urbanized cities in the country each year. So this is done in order to generate unbiased national level data for all the indicators. So in the first year of ENNS in 2018, 40 provinces and agencies were covered, another set of 40 areas in 2019, and the remaining 37 areas were supposed to be covered in 2020. However, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the data collection last year was discontinued, so we hope to commence with the data collection for the last 37 areas this year. So as mentioned, the third year of the ENNS was discontinued because of the pandemic. So only 2 years of the 3-year data collection periods were conducting, covering only 2/3 of the assigned 117 areas. So because of this, we had to analyze our data for tracking the trends of nutrition and health indicators collected in the ENNS. So the 2018 and 2019 results are now pooled to increase the precision. So these pooled estimates are now comparable with the 2015 and 2013 survey results. So for the remaining 37 areas in the ENNS, data collection will still be conducted in order for us to generate local level estimates and to gather data that may be used to determine the possible effects of the pandemic on the health and nutritional status of the population. So here are the different data collection methods that we conducted for the ENNS. So first, on the anthropometric measurements, so we collected weight, height, waist, and hip circumferences to assess the nutritional status. Blood pressure or BP measurement was also done. And then blood collection was performed by our medical technologists to determine fasting blood sugar and lipid profile. And for the face-to-face interview, this was conducted to collect information on socioeconomic characteristics and different NCD risk factors. So in this project, some of the indicators for the global NCD targets were assessed and monitored to track our progress or changes using the results of the national nutrition surveys. So we determined the annual percent reduction for each of these indicators in order for us to achieve the 2025 target. So these are on race, blood pressure, raised blood sugar, and overweight and obesity for biological risk factors, and then smoking, binge drinking, and physical inactivity for behavioral risk factors. And in this slide, we present the target age for the different variables collected in the 2018 and 2019 ENNS. Now, let me present the results. And let us start with adolescents or the teenagers. So for overweight and obesity among adolescents 10 years and 1 month, so that is 10.08 years to 19 years old, based on the ENNS pooled results, 1 in every 10 adolescents or 10.7% was overweight or obese. And the rates did not differ by sex and by age group. Overweight and obesity was seen more among very young teens, 10 to 13 years old at 12.2%. And then the prevalence decreased thereafter. By place of residence, there were significantly more adolescents from urban areas who were overweight and obese. And then by wealth status, it is very evident in this slide that socioeconomic condition plays a major role in the nutritional status of an individual. So the prevalence was increasing, and it was highest among adolescents in the richest wealth quintile at 21.8%. And for the trend of overweight and obesity prevalence, this has been increasing and considered a growing problem among adolescents. The rate actually doubled from 2003, 4.9% to the pooled estimate of 10.7%. So with the target of 0% increase, we need 0.4% reduction per year in order to meet this target in 2025. So factors associated with overweight and obesity among adolescents will be presented later in this technical session. For the blood pressure level among adolescents, the mean systolic as well as diastolic blood pressures were recorded, and these were higher among boys compared to girls, particularly for systolic BP. And comparing between survey years, mean systolic and diastolic BP did not actually change between 2013 and 2015 surveys. But between 2015 and the ENNS 2018-2019 results, the mean significantly declined. So currently, BP norms study is still in the pipeline. And we will be finalizing this protocol in order for us to come up with BP reference tables for Filipino children and adolescents so that we can assess elevated blood pressure in this age group. So currently, our pediatricians follow the guidelines in the 2017 American Academy of Pediatrics for the screening and diagnosis of childhood and adolescent hypertension. For smoking, so let me start with the definition. So current smokers are those who smoke daily at the time of the survey or on a regular occasional basis, while former smokers are those who did not smoke for 1 year prior to the survey. And never smokers are those individuals who never smoked at all. So in the Philippines, 3.7% of adolescents were currently smoking. And obviously, there were more boys who currently smoke, so this is 6.7%. And by age group, so as the adolescent gets older, the proportion of current smokers increased dramatically, especially when the teens reach their legal age of 18 years old. So this is 12.7%. By place of residence, the rates did not differ, and then by wealth quintile, the proportion was slightly higher among teens living in lower wealth quintiles. So for the trend, the proportion of current smokers among adolescents continuously declined throughout the survey years. And we are happy to report that we have actually achieved our target of 30% reduction earlier. So in the 2018-2019 ENNS, the proportion was 3.7%. So we just need to sustain our efforts in order to further lessen the number of smokers in the country. For secondhand smoking or passive smoking, so this is the inhalation of smoke by persons other than the intended active smoker. So this increases the risk of development of respiratory diseases, particularly among children. So based on the results, almost half or 45.7% of adolescents were exposed to secondhand smoke inside their homes. And sadly, majority of adolescents, or 79.1%, are exposed to secondhand smoke outside the home or in communities. For binge drinking or the harmful use of alcohol, so this is defined as drinking 5 or more standard drinks in a row for males, or 4 or more standard drinks in a row for females. So this is among those who reported drinking alcoholic beverages in the past 30 days. So in order for us to identify our respondents who were engaged in binge drinking, we need to ask if they consume alcoholic beverages in the past month so that we can record the amount or volume as well as the brand of the alcoholic beverages they consume for all occasions and compute for the number of standard drinks. So in the Philippines, 6% were current drinkers in the past month, and there were significantly more boys at 8.7%. By age group, the increase is very evident when the teens are in their senior high school, age 16 to 17 years old, and then the proportion increased again to 18.9% when they reach their legal age of 18 years old. By place of residence, the proportion was slightly higher among teens in the urban areas, and by wealth quintile, the proportion was increasing. So it was higher in the higher wealth quintiles. So from 6% who reported drinking in the past month, those who were engaged in binge drinking or the harmful use of alcohol was 2.6% in the ENNS. So the proportion of binge drinkers slightly declined from 2015, so this is 3%, to 2018 and 2019 estimate of 2.6%. So this is the same trend for boys and for girls. So we hope to intensify our campaign for healthy lifestyle even during the pandemic for teens not to start or to stop in engaging with risky behavior. So factors associated with binge drinking among adolescents will be presented later in this technical session. So for physical activity, so let me define first what is insufficiently physically active for adolescents 10 to 17 years old. So this means doing less than 60 minutes or 1 hour of moderate to vigorous intensity physical activity per day. So this is for the past 7 days of the week. And then for adults, starting at 18 years old, insufficiently active adult is a person not meeting any of the following criteria. So 3 or more days of vigorous intensity activity, at least 20 minutes per day, 5 or more days of moderate intensity activity, at least 30 minutes per day, or at least walking of at least 30 minutes a day. So among adolescents 10 to 19 years old, merging the results for 10 to 17 years and 18 to 19 years, 8 out of 10 adolescents, or 78%, were insufficiently physically active in 2018 and 2019. And there were significantly more girls who were physically inactive at 82.9%. So by place of residence and wealth status, there were no significant differences in these categories, although it was slightly higher among teens in the urban areas and among teens in the richest wealth quintile. So this is the summary slide for the assessment of NCD risk factors among Filipino adolescents. Now for adults 20 years old and above, let me start again with overweight and obesity. So we used body mass index, or BMI, in the assessment of overweight and obesity. So currently, there are 2 classifications of BMI, WHO and the Asia Pacific classification. So in the ENNS and in this study, we still use the WHO BMI classification in order for us to compare our prevalence with that of other countries and for time trends. So the prevalence of overweight among adults was 27.8% in the ENNS. It was significantly higher among women at 30%. And by age group, the prevalence is increasing until it peaked at 40 to 49 years old and then decreased afterward. There were more adults from urban areas who were overweight. And by wealth quintile, the prevalence was evidently increasing by wealth status, where 36.1% of adults in the richest wealth quintile were overweight. And now for obesity. 8.8% were obese among adults, and it was again higher among women at 11.1%. So in terms of age group, place of residence, and wealth status, the same trend can be seen as we can also be seen here for the prevalence of obesity. So the trend of overweight and obesity among adults is also a growing problem in the country. And the prevalence more than doubled from 16.6% in 1993 to 36.6% in the ENNS. So in order to attain the 0% target in 2025, we need to reduce the prevalence by 0.92% every year. So this is much more challenging for our program planners and implementers. So for the android type of obesity or abdominal obesity, so this is based on waist circumference and waist height ratio. So this slide shows the cutoff points and classification by sex. So the prevalence of high waist circumference for males, so this is the blue line, has been slowly increasing. Though it declined in 2015, the prevalence significantly increased in the ENNS. Among females, this is the red line, the magnitude of increase is much higher, and the trend is the same, which is slowly increasing since 1998, although it declined in 2015, but the prevalence increased again to 23.3% in the ENNS. So for high waist to hip ratio, for males, the blue line again, the trend has been slowly declining since 2003 until 2011. But slight increases may be observed in 2013 as well as in the ENNS. Among females, this is the red line, obviously, there were more females affected, and the prevalence in the ENNS was 63.3%, or almost 2/3 of women had high waist-hip ratio. For elevated blood pressure, so this is the classification and cutoff points that we use in the survey. So we report elevated blood pressure since this is based on a single visit blood pressure measurement. So this is the pooled ENNS results. The prevalence of elevated blood pressure is 18.3%, and there were significantly more males who had elevated blood pressure compared to females. By age group, the prevalence was increasing by 5 to 10 percentage points. And by place of residence, the rates were the same. And by wealth quintile, it was slightly lower among adults in the lower wealth quintiles. So for the trend in the prevalence of elevated BP among adults, so since 1993, the prevalence of raised BP ranged from 21% to 25% in the past 2 decades. Then we were actually happily surprised that the prevalence significantly dropped to 18.3% in the ENNS. So our global NCD target for raised BP is 25% reduction in 2025. So we need 0.27% reduction per year in order to achieve this target. And then for high fasting blood sugar, so this is the classification and cutoff points that we use, which is 126 milligram per deciliter or more. And then for the impaired fasting blood sugar, we still use the WHO and IDF 2006 cutoff of 110 to 125 milligram per deciliter. So in the ENNS, the prevalence of high fasting blood sugar was 8.1%, and the rates by sex were the same. But by age, the increase by age group was really evident. The prevalence was also significantly higher among adults from urban areas, and just like overweight and obesity, the prevalence increased with wealth quintile. So for the trend of high fasting blood sugar, this is the red line, the prevalence significantly increased to 8.1% in the ENNS. Actually, this was quite an alarming increase from 5.6% in 2003. And then for the impaired blood sugar or pre-diabetes, this increased threefold from 2.7% to 8.7% in the ENNS. So we need 0.42% reduction per year in order to meet our 0% increase target in 2025. For smoking, which we have defined earlier, so the proportion of current smokers among adults was 20.3%, and 4 out of 10 males were smoking. The proportions were almost the same among 20 to 59 years old, and then significantly declined among 60 years old and above. There was slightly higher proportion of adults from rural areas who currently smoke, and then by wealth quintile, smoking was highest among those in the lowest wealth quintile. So for the trend, the proportion of current smokers continuously declined from 2003 up to the latest ENNS. So this is another good news. So for the global NCD target of 30% reduction, we need 0.42% reduction per year in order to meet this target. And then for binge drinking or the harmful use of alcohol, so let me start again with the proportion of current drinkers in the past 30 days. So for both and for males, the proportion is very slightly decreasing from 2013 until the latest survey. Although the proportion among men were still high, and then for females, the proportion slightly increased from 10.8% to 11.2% in the ENNS. So from a quarter or 25.9 of adults who were current drinkers in the past month, 12.5% of adults were engaged in binge drinking. So in the ENNS 2018 and 2019 results. About a quarter of males were engaged in binge drinking, while 2.9 of females were engaged in the harmful use of alcohol. So for the trend in the proportion of binge drinkers, so this is actually declining. So our global NCD target of 10% reduction was actually already achieved in the ENNS. So again, we just need to sustain our efforts, especially for our programs for healthy lifestyle, particularly avoiding harmful use of alcohol, so that this proportion will no longer increase. And for the last risk factor on physical activity, so the overall trend from 2013 was slowly decreasing. So from 45.5% to 40.5% in the ENNS. However, by sex, the trend is different. So among men, the proportion significantly declined in 2015, but slightly increased in the ENNS. But for women, although the proportions were the same in 2013 and 2015, we are happy to report that the proportion of inactive women significantly declined in the ENNS at 45.7%. So with the latest proportion of insufficiently physically active adults of 40.5%, the global NCD target of 10% reduction of physical inactivity was actually already achieved in the ENNS. So we just need to sustain our programs or efforts for more physical activity at the workplace or at home, especially for those in the work from home arrangements, to further lessen this proportion. So this is the summary slide for the assessment of NCD risk factors among adults. So in conclusion, this study revealed that NCD risk factors, both biological and behavioral, were already present among Filipino adolescents, and the prevalence was even higher among adults. And for some risk factors, particularly high fasting blood sugar and overweight and obesity, increases in the prevalence were alarming. So by sex, some risk factors were higher in men, like raised BP, smoking, and alcohol drinking, while among women, overweight and obesity, especially abdominal obesity and physical inactivity, were very much of a concern. So going back to our NCD Global Targets monitoring framework for some indicators, percent reductions were presented for raised BP, high fasting blood sugar, overweight and obesity, and smoking among adults. So in order to achieve these 2025 targets. So we hope in the next cycle of the NNS, starting in 2023, we will again report our progress as well as our targets for the Sustainable Development Goals. So this study recommends high impact plans and actions of the government be implemented, and for existing programs on NCD prevention and control to be enhanced to reduce the prevalence of these NCD risk factors. These actions are urgently needed and should not only focus among adults, but of course, to start among children and adolescents. So we should be more proactive, and we should invest and intensify our efforts so that we can beat NCDs in order to reach our mission of having better health and brighter future. So before I end, I would like to acknowledge the Disease Prevention and Control Bureau of the Department of Health for the funding support in the conduct of this project as part of the ENNS. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Patalen, for a comprehensive presentation on the nutritional status of Filipino adolescents and adults. Indeed, investing in the improvement of nutritional and well-being of this age group will help the country's economy survive as adults encompass the working force of the country. Before we proceed, allow me to acknowledge our 900 and counting participants from the Zoom webinar and 200 viewers in the DOST-FNRI YouTube. Also acknowledging the presence of our Director, Dr. Imelda Angeles Agdepa, and our Deputy Director, Dr. Anthony Calibo. We also have experts and partners from the audience, and we are honored to have with us our three most important pillars of the DOST-FNRI, our former directors, Dr. Corazon Barba, Dr. Florentino, and Dr. Mario Capansana. Good afternoon, ma'am and sirs. Thank you for always being with us. Also, hello to FNRI Committee Chair, Dr. Desiree Daniega, and members, Reverend Father Leonardo E. Dolentas and Mr. Red De Silva. We also have here Ms. Joy Ramos Buenviaje, PRC Board for Nutrition and Dietetics. Also, hello also to Dr. Maria Teresa Ungson, NNC Regional Nutrition Program Coordinator for Region 11, sorry. Hello, Dr. Ungson. Please expect our team coordinators to contact you for the conduct of the expanded National Nutrition Survey in Davao del Sur and Compostela Valley. So yung dalawang areas na lang po ang hindi natin nako-cover for Davao region. And for Dr. Celeste Tanchoco, our FNRI alumnus, magandang hapon also to Dr. Milagros Rabe, Dean of Graduate School of UE RMMC. Okay, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Again, reminding everyone to please feel free to type in your questions in the question and Q&A box, and this will be answered during the open forum. In doing so, please do not forget to type in your complete name and affiliation to be recognized later in the open forum. Okay, so let us now proceed to the second speaker. Mr. C, take it away.
Good day, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Tita Malabat, for that kind introduction. I will be discussing about an in-depth study about alcohol consumption of Filipino adolescents utilizing the data from the 2018 ENNS. So the title of the study is Alcohol Drinking and Nutritional Status and Among Adolescents in the Philippines, ENNS 2018. So the authors declared that they have no known competing financial interests or personal relationships that could have appeared to influence the work in this presentation. So this technical session had focused on adolescent population. So adolescent is the phase between childhood and adulthood where rapid and evident stages of human development takes place. Important development in the regions of the brain and specific nourishment of the body should be ensured during these years. Therefore, this is a crucial period in life with specific health and development needs. According to the National Institute of Health on Drug Abuse, alcohol is the most common substance consumed among adolescents, followed by tobacco and marijuana. Alcohol consumption can aggravate the human growth and may cause premature development of non-communicable diseases towards adulthood. Some added facts about alcohol consumption. According to the WHO, about 5.1% of the global burden of NCDs and injury is attributable to alcohol consumption. This was measured using DALY, or the Disability Adjusted Life Years. These percentages pertains to the total population regardless of the age group. So again, according to the data again by WHO, alcohol consumption causes death and disability early in life, specifically for ages 20 to 39 years old, or approximately 13.5% of the total deaths are attributable to alcohol consumption. The global data shows, according to the National Institute of Health, more than 1.1 million aged 10 to 19 years old died in 2016, or approximately 3,000 adolescents every day, mostly from avoidable or treatable causes. Among these health issues are mental health, depression, physical inactivity, malnutrition, and micronutrient deficiencies, and violence due to influence of drugs and alcohol. In the Philippines, there is a fluctuating trend in the percentage of adolescent current drinkers, from a downward trend in 2008 to 2013, from a significant decrease in 2015 at 14.9%, to slight increase in 2018 at 16.8%. So this is the operational definition per drinking category as used in the ENNS. Lifetime abstainers, those are people who never consume alcohol. Former drinkers, those are people who have previously consumed alcohol but have not done so in the previous 12 months preceding the survey. Current drinkers, those are the people who are currently consuming alcohol during the past 12 months of the time of the survey. And lastly, binge drinkers are the people who, among current drinkers, who consume 4 or 5 standard drinks of alcohol in one sitting. According to the 2018 ENNS, there were 75% adolescent lifetime abstainer, or those who never consume alcoholic beverages. 8.2% were former drinkers, and 16.8% were current drinkers, or about 2 out of 10 adolescents aged 10 to 19 years old are consuming alcoholic beverages. From the 16.8%, there were 4% adolescents who were engaged in binge drinking or the excessive drinking in one occasion. So let me give you an overview on the possible consequences of alcohol drinking according to the World Health Organization. So it could be impaired brain development, malnutrition, physical inactivity, alcohol dependence and alcohol use disorder, alcohol-related driving fatalities, fighting with friends, getting injured, and damaging property. The general objectives of this study. So the study aimed to describe alcohol drinking status of adolescents and its association to their socioeconomic characteristics, nutritional status, physical activity, and nutrient intake. Specifically, the study aimed to determine socioeconomic profiling of adolescents by alcohol drinking status based on the existing data of the 2018 ENNS. And second is to assess the nutritional status, physical activity, and nutrient intake of adolescents by drinking status. Third is to determine the association between alcohol drinking among adolescents and various socioeconomic characteristics. And last is to determine if alcohol drinking has a significant effect on the nutritional status, physical activity, and nutrient intake of adolescents. So this is the operational definition for physical activity for 10 to 17 years old. For those who have seen the presentation of the previous presenter, this definition was also discussed. So insufficiently physically active among adolescents 10 to 17 years old are those doing less than 60 minutes of moderate to vigorous intensity physical activity per day. So this slide shows the definition of physical activity for 18 years old and above as defined by the WHO stepwise approach to non-communicable diseases risk factor surveillance manual. So insufficiently physically active among adolescents 18 years old and above is doing less than 3 days of vigorous intensity activity of at least 20 minutes per day, or doing less than 5 days of moderate intensity activity or walking of at least 30 minutes per day. So what happened in this study is we lumped that 18 to 19.9 years old and used this definition as parameter for their physical activity and combined it in the cutoff for physical inactivity for 10 to 17 years old as shown in the previous slide. So this is the operational definition of a standard drink. Contains approximately 10 grams of pure alcohol, specifically ethanol. So a standard drink may be of the following: 285 ml of bottled beer, one single jigger or approximately 30 ml of spirits or commonly known as hard drinks, 120 ml of glass wine, or 60 ml of aperitif such as examples are vermouth, champagnes, and pasties. So these are the disaggregated groups that was used in this in-depth study. So for the non-binge drinkers, adolescents who are identified as lifetime abstainers, former drinkers, and current drinkers that was not recognized as binge drinkers. Second is the binge drinkers. These are adolescents who drinks at least 4 or 5 standard drinks in one sitting or occasion. So this study applied a cross-sectional analysis and highlighted the binge drinkers among adolescents, where 483 adolescents were identified as binge drinkers. For the methods of acquiring the data, these variables were collected by trained researchers composed of registered nutritionist dietitians, registered nurses, and other health professionals last 2018. For the anthropometric indices, we collected weight and height to define the current nutritional status of the target population, such as stunting, wasting, overweight, and obesity. For the alcohol drinking status, it was determined through face-to-face interview using a structured questionnaire adopted from the WHO stepwise approach for non-communicable diseases, risk factor surveillance manual. And third is the physical activity. It was collected using also a structured questionnaire adopted from the same manual. And for the last variable, a 2-day non-consecutive 24-hour food recall was used to determine dietary intake of adolescents. For the statistical analysis, it was done using Stata version 15.1. Chi-square test was used to test possible association between variables. Logistic regression was used to determine predictive factors of binge drinking among adolescents. For the results, so again, the proportion of binge drinker was 4%, thus that was culled out from the current drinkers. So for the general profile of adolescent binge drinkers, profiling the sex of adolescent binge drinkers, about 4.5% were male and 1.4% were female. In terms of educational status, about 12.4% were not enrolled and 2.4% are currently enrolled in schools. By place of residence, about 2.1% are living in rural areas and 4.1% are in urban areas. The employment status of the household head of the adolescents, about 2.3% have no work or without work, while 2.1% are currently working or has a job. The sex of the household head, they are mostly males at 5.1%, 5.9%, sorry. In terms of the number of household members, 3.1% have 5 members below and 2.8% have more than 5 members. So highlighting the results of the socioeconomic characteristic of adolescent binge drinkers, both sex and educational status found to be an associated factors to binge drinking among adolescents, especially among male and adolescents who are not enrolled. Comparing the prevalence in terms of gender, and a significant result of binge drinker were observed among male, which is 4.5% compared to female at 1.4%. In terms of educational status, a significant result of binge drinkers were observed among currently not enrolled at 12.4% compared to adolescents who are enrolled in schools. So this slide shows the association of binge drinkers among adolescents by place of residence. So adolescent living in urban area was highly associated in engaging the binge drinking among this age group. Furthermore, of prevalence was found significant among binge drinkers who are residing in urban areas with 4.1% compared to 2.1% in rural areas. So proportion of binge drinkers among adolescents showed that there is a significant percentage among 18 to 19 years old adolescent at 10.9%, followed by 6.9% among 16 to 17.9 years old, and 1.4% among 13 to 15.9 years old. Age was also an associated factor to binge drinking, whereas the age increases, the likelihood of engaging to binge drinking also increases. So in this slide, we highlighted the association of nutritional status of Filipino adolescents by physical inactivity with alcohol drinking status. Physical activity was associated among overweight and obese adolescent binge drinkers. In terms of prevalence among physically inactive stunted binge drinker, it was slightly higher at 31.2% compared to non-binge drinker at 24.5%, though it is not statistically significant. For wasting, it was slightly higher among non-binge drinkers at 11.5% compared to their counterpart at 8.7%. For overweight and obesity, prevalence of binge drinker was significantly higher at 15.2% compared to non-binge drinkers at 13.5%. So this slide shows the mean energy and macronutrient intake of Filipino adolescents. Comparing the intake for total energy, binge drinkers had a significantly higher intake than non-binge drinkers. For carbohydrates, protein, and fat mean intake, the graph on the right, it exhibits a similar results were observed wherein binge drinkers have a significant higher intake compared to non-binge drinkers. For the micronutrient intake, iron, calcium, thiamine, riboflavin, niacin were all significantly higher among binge drinkers compared to non-binge drinkers. So let me give you some facts about these results. A study pertaining to the link between alcoholism and risk and obesity conducted in the United States last 2010, the study found out that heavy consumption of alcohol triggers a gradual increase in the reward threshold. It signals the brain to consume foods that is higher than usual and thus contributing to the increase in the intake that may lead to overweight and obesity among these groups. Using logistic regression, predictors of binge drinking was found in sex and educational status. Male adolescents were four times more likely to engage in binge drinking based on the odds ratio compared to female. Educational status was also found a predictor of binge drinking among adolescents, whereas the likelihood of engaging to binge drinking was 3 times more likely to occur among not enrolled compared to enrolled in schools. So in summary, associated factors among binge drinking adolescents were sex, age, educational status, place of residence, and physical inactivity. Physically inactive, overweight, and obese binge drinkers were significantly higher at 15.2%, and majority of energy and nutrient intake were significantly higher among binge drinkers except vitamin A and C. Predictive factors of binge drinking identified were sex and educational status. So in conclusion, adolescent binge drinking were prevalent among the male population and those who were not enrolled in schools. Overweight and obesity were evident among physically inactive binge drinkers. So based on the results, the study recommends intervention programs to prevent overweight and obesity to be strengthened, particularly among the out-of-school youth and male population, as they were identified as the most vulnerable groups. The results of the study may be used as basis to review existing laws to possibly integrate graphic health warnings, or RA 10643, on alcoholic beverages, and maybe moving up the legal drinking age to 21 years old in the country. So let me end with a quote by Dennis Waitley. So time and health are two precious assets that we don't recognize and appreciate until they have been depleted. So starting right is the right start. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. C, for a very interesting presentation. I hope our local executives and program implementers have seen his presentation. It is high time to strengthen our implementation of local ordinances related to selling to or buying of alcoholic products to our adolescents. And to parents and guardians to always look after their children's welfare, as we saw from Mr. C's presentation, possible consequences of drinking alcohol to the nutrition and health of our adolescents. Before proceeding to the last but not the least presentation, may I also remind our YouTube viewers to please key in your questions in the chat box. Type in your name and affiliation before your questions to be recognized later in the open forum. For the third presentation, may I now give the virtual floor to Ms. Josie Desnacido.
Good day, everyone. I will be presenting the study entitled Determinants of Overweight and Obesity Among Filipino Adolescents, 2018 Expanded National Nutrition Survey, Philippines. So the authors declare that they have no known competing financial interests or personal relationships that could have appeared to influence the work in this presentation. So for the introduction, adolescence is a crucial period of development because it represents the transition between life as a child and life as an adult. The World Health Organization, or the WHO, defines adolescent as any person between ages 10 and 19. Achievement of optimum growth during this period is important in maintaining good health thereafter. 1/6 of the world's population, or approximately 1.2 billion people, are adolescents. In the Philippines, adolescents comprise 30% of the population, indicating their importance in the country's development. The prevalence of overweight and obesity among children and adolescents has increased worldwide, from 4% to 18% in a span of 41 years, from 1975 to 2016, where over 340 million adolescents were notably affected. Overweight and obesity were defined as abnormal or excessive fat accumulation that may impair health. Obesity in adolescents have significant impact on both physical and physiological health of individual. Obese adolescents may be at increased risk of becoming obese adults and are at greater risk of developing type 2 diabetes mellitus, cardiovascular disease, sleep disorder, and bone and joint diseases. Aside from the health risks brought about by being overweight and obese, it also causes certain social and psychosocial problems such as stigmatization and poor self-esteem. According to the National Nutrition Surveys conducted by DOST-FNRI, the prevalence of overweight and obesity among adolescents showed a gradually increasing trend from 4.9% in 2003 to 9.2% in 2015, and significantly increased to 11.6% in 2018. Identifying major determinants of overweight and obesity in adolescent stage is important to establish effective intervention programs, thereby preventing its future consequence. Thus, this study aimed to identify the potential determinants of overweight and obesity among Filipino adolescents aged 10 to 19 years old using data from 2018 Expanded National Nutrition Survey. Specifically, it aimed to determine the frequency of overweight, including obesity by potential determinants, to determine the association of overweight and obesity to household socioeconomic factors, food intake, food security status, and some lifestyle-related factors, and to identify strength or magnitude of influence of these potential determinants to overweight and obesity. So for the methodology, secondary data from the 2018 Expanded National Nutrition Survey were utilized in this study. A total of 16,217 adolescents, 10 to 19.99 years old, from 52,285 households with complete socio-demographic, anthropometry, selected non-communicable diseases or NCD risk factor, and food consumption data were included in the study. So this slide shows the study variables. So overweight and obesity was considered as the dependent variable, while the independent variables are socio-demographic characteristics, household socio-economic status, household food security, lifestyle-related factors, and dietary intake. Information on socio-demographic, socio-economic profiles, and selected behavioral and lifestyle factors of the respondents were gathered through a face-to-face interview using an interview guide and structured questionnaire via Electronic Data Collection System or EDCS. While for the dietary intake of adolescents, this was collected using 24-hour food recall for 2 non-consecutive days. For the data processing and analysis, so overweight and obesity were combined to ensure adequate size for the regression analysis. Descriptive statistics such as means, standard deviations, frequencies, percentages, and confidence intervals were generated to describe the distribution of each variable. Logistic regression analysis was performed using Stata version 15. Now, let's proceed to the results. Among adolescents, 12% or 1 out of 10 adolescents were overweight and obese. Disaggregated by sex, so the proportion of overweight and obesity was slightly higher among males than females. Disaggregated by age groups, so the proportion of overweight and obesity was significantly higher among younger age group of 10 to 12 years old than older age group of 13 to 15 and 16 to 19 years old. Overweight and obesity were significantly prevalent among households with less than 5 members than with more than 5 members. In terms of place of residence, so adolescents from urban areas has significantly higher proportion of overweight and obesity than their counterparts from rural areas. In terms of socioeconomic status, so the prevalence of overweight and obesity increased as wealth quintile improved, with the richest quintile having the highest proportion of overweight and obese adolescents. 2 out of 10, or 23.2% of adolescents from the richest quintile are overweight and obese. In addition, there were significantly more overweight and obese adolescents who were food secure than food insecure. Looking at the lifestyle-related risk factors, so in terms of physical activity, so the results show that the prevalence of overweight and obese adolescents was significantly higher among those who are physically inactive than physically active adolescents. So when the person have an inactive lifestyle, so the person burn fewer calories, and this makes more likely to gain weight. For the alcohol status, the prevalence was higher among those who are current drinkers than those who are former drinker and who have never consumed alcohol. Alcohol can cause weight gain because it stops the body from burning fat, it is high in calories, it can make a person feel hungry, and it can lead to poor food choices. If we take a look at the mean energy and nutrient intakes of adolescents, so the light blue bar represents the adolescents who had normal weight, while the dark blue bar represents the adolescents who are overweight and obese. So the results showed that overweight and obese adolescents aged 10 to 12 years old and 13 to 15 years old consume significantly more dietary energy, carbohydrates, protein, and fats than their counterparts with normal weight. While overweight and obese adolescents, aged 16 to 19 years old, consume slightly more dietary energy and significantly higher protein and fats than their counterparts with normal weight. This slide shows the percent contribution of different food groups to the total energy intake of overweight and obese adolescents. Of the different food groups, rice and other cereal products, which is represented by light orange shade, contributed to the most to the total energy intake across all subgroups. Fish, meat, and poultry products, which is represented by red shade, were among the second contributors to the total energy intake across all subgroups. Noticeably, fats and oils, in blue shade, were included in the food items that have higher contribution to the energy intakes of overweight and obese adolescents. Conversely, other food groups like dried beans, nuts, and seeds, and vegetables had less than 1% contribution to the total energy intake. The result also showed that 1/4 or 25.5% of adolescents whose intake were above their energy requirements were overweight and obese. And 3/4 or 71.6% of adolescents whose intake were above their protein requirement were overweight and obese. So who is more likely to become overweight and obese adolescents? So using multivariate logistic analysis, so the following are the factors associated with overweight and obesity among adolescents. Based on the results of the study, so younger adolescents aged 10 to 12 years old have greater risk of becoming overweight and obese, with 62% more likely to become overweight and obese than in older age groups. Overweight and obesity were 63% higher among adolescents with less than 5 members than those with 5 or more than 5 members in the household. Consistent with other studies, the chance of being overweight and obese was higher among adolescents who were urban dwellers than those in rural areas. Based on the results of this study, adolescents living in the urban areas were 34% more likely to become overweight and obese than adolescents in rural areas. This may be due to the attributes of the food and physical environment, which promotes a generally unhealthy lifestyle of increased consumption of energy-rich but nutrient-poor diets and a sedentary lifestyle. In terms of socioeconomic status, so being overweight and obese increased as wealth improved. Those belong to the richest quintile were 4 times more likely to be overweight and obese compared to adolescents in the poorest quintile. Higher household income and smaller household size have been reported to be associated with higher purchasing power and food affordability. Wealthier families were more likely to be able to purchase ample food, including buying of energy-dense foods. Okay. Similarly, adolescents from the food-secure households were 47% more likely to be overweight and obese than those adolescents from food-insecure households. In terms of physical activity, adolescents who were physically inactive were 41% more likely to be overweight and obese than physically active adolescents. Physical activity is a key determinant of energy expenditure, as it has a fundamental positive influence on energy balance and weight control. Regular physical activity in children and adolescents is important for obesity prevention and supporting obese adolescents to manage their weight. As recommended by WHO, adolescents must accumulate a total of at least 60 minutes of moderate to vigorous intensity physical activity daily. The result also showed that the chance of being overweight and obese adolescents was 75% higher among those whose energy intake were above their requirements. This may be explained by the concept of positive energy balance, wherein weight gain is brought about by the greater energy intake than energy expenditure, thus resulting to a higher likelihood for overweight and obesity. And the chance of being overweight and obese adolescents were 46% higher among those whose protein intake were above their requirements. For the recommendations, so results of this study will aid in focusing adolescent health intervention and promotion strategies towards improving their nutritional status. So what could be done? First, emphasize the importance of open communication channel between adolescents and their parents to better supervise and influence them in their food choices. Okay. Second, create awareness programs on the role of dietary habits, physical activity, and lifestyle in establishing and maintaining a healthy living. And it is must for all parents, educators, and health professionals to strengthen strategies and advocacies promoting healthy lifestyle to help curb the rising trend of overweight and obesity among Filipino adolescents. Before I end my presentation, let me share to you these slides from the World Health Organization. So it emphasizes the primary factors that influence an adolescent's risk to non-communicable diseases. It is a must to everyone, especially to adolescents, in this case, to consume a healthy diet, have a regular physical activity, and avoid tobacco and alcohol consumption to help prevent the onset of non-communicable diseases. Also, this slide shows how important it is to invest in the overall promotion of health among adolescents. The health and the nutritional status of adolescents is an index of the national investment in the development of its future manpower. Today's adolescents are tomorrow's parents and even tomorrow's community leaders. So that ends my presentation. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Josie, and to all the speakers for the informative and interesting talk. Indeed, overweight and obesity is a consistently rising nutrition problem among our adolescents and adults, prevalence of which in this present time has doubled from the prevalence decade ago, with 1 in every 3 experiencing it. Aside from overweight and obesity, behavioral risk factors such as alcohol drinking and smoking are among the leading causes of non-communicable diseases such as hypertension, diabetes, and cardiovascular diseases. These risk factors are modifiable, which means we have control over them, and the soonest we take actions, the lesser the risk for us to have NCDs later in life. So with that, we will be having a quick break before the open forum. But before that, let me acknowledge the presence of Dr. Gina Pedro and Dr. Cecilia Acuin, 2 of our former chief in the Nutritional Assessment and Monitoring Division. Na-miss nyo na po ba kami, mga ma'am? And Dr. Acuin also is the present president of the Philippine Association of Nutrition, or PAN. We would like to acknowledge also Director Cesar R. Pedraza of Planning and Evaluation Service, the Managing Director of SMEs Soft Incorporated, or SSI. And also, hello to Ms. Arlene Reario, the NNC Regional Nutrition Program Coordinator for Region 5. Hello, ma'am. Looking forward to seeing you soon as we still have province of Albay, Masbate, and Catanduanes to cover for the expanded National Nutrition Survey for this year. So with that, let us take a 5-minute break. Okay, so as announced earlier, the expanded National Nutrition Survey data collection for year 3 has started since July 1. And we are encouraging target areas for their cooperation and participation as results of this survey will give us clearer picture of the nutritional status and food security status of the country in the time of pandemic. These are vital inputs to the development of programs or strategies addressing food and nutrition security in situations such as the pandemic we are experiencing since 2020. So in order for us to collect accurate and reliable information, we are currently in need of competitive researchers composed of registered medical technologists and nutritionist dietitian. So for nutrition and nursing graduates, you may inquire or please contact the numbers shown in your screen or email the namditraining@gmail.com and nns.onlinetraining@gmail.com your resumes or curriculum CVs and your copy of your PRC ID. And for registered medical technologies, we also currently in need. Actually, medyo madami po ang kailangan natin for registered medical technologies. So you may contact Ms. Rosemary J. Dumag, Supervising Science Research Specialist for our Service Laboratory Group. Through Mr. Dan Emil G. Florendo, Science Research Specialist 1 of SLG Biochem Laboratory. So you may email your CVs and copy of your PRC ID at FNRI ENNS 2018@gmail.com. Okay, thank you. Now we come to the question and answer portion. May I request our 3 panelists, Ms. Patalen, Mr. C, and Ms. Desnacido to join us. Please turn on your microphones and videos.
Pero you cannot.
Okay, are we ready? So let us begin. Our first question is for everyone. So anyone from the group can answer this question. The question is, have you considered looking into the relationship of alcoholic beverage binge drinking with the prevalence or incidence of younger age group affected with NCD? This question is from Dr. Desiree Daniega, the FIRS chairman.
Okay. Hello po, good afternoon. Thank you for that question, Dr. Daniega. Doc, we have not yet assessed the elevated blood pressure among adolescents or used reference tables to assess hypertension, and we also do not have the data for metabolic related diseases among teenagers. That is why I have mentioned facts earlier by the WHO. Alcoholic consumption causes death and disability early in life, specifically for ages 20 to 39 years old, or approximately 13.5% of the total deaths are attributable to alcohol consumption. That was the data from the WHO last 2018. So this may relate to the early engagement to drinking po because of young adults are more prone to alcohol-related NCDs. Ayan po.
Okay, thank you, Mr. C. By the way, Mr. C is currently in Cotabato City.
Yes po.
Hello,
Nandito po ako,
Justin,
Cotabato.
and to all our researchers covering Cotabato City. Okay, for our next question is for Ms. Patalen from an anonymous attendee sa ating Zoom webinar. So the question is, was vape considered under smoking If not, would it be possible that those in the urban areas have lower smoking rate because they have more access to vape? Ms. Patalen?
Actually, the use of vape or electronic cigarettes were asked since the 2013 NNS or National Nutrition Survey. However, the proportion that we are generating from the survey results are quite low. So in the 2018-2019 poll result, the proportion of current smokers who use vape was only 0.8%. So we no longer disaggregate this data by place of residence or by urban and rural. So maliit pa po yung proportion in the Philippines. So in the next, hopefully in the next NNS, we will be reviewing our questionnaire again using the WHO STEPS questionnaire in order for us to ask for more details in the use of these electronic nicotine delivery systems. So we still have to ask for the use of heated tobacco products and other new devices used by our smokers. So maliit pa po yung proportion.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Patalen. Another question. So pwede po sigurong Ms. Josie or Ms. Patalen can answer this question. So many adolescents nowadays feel discouraged to exercise and would engage to stress eating, unhealthy eating habits because of the new normal. So napapanahon po tong question na to that they have to face every day. How are we going to encourage them during this pandemic to increase their physical activity and eat healthy, since they are mostly in front of their laptops, attending their online classes or busy doing their modules? What are the efforts that we can offer as healthcare providers to avoid usage of cigarettes or vapes or drinking alcoholic beverages among this age group?
So good afternoon. So thank you, Ma'am Tina. So sabi mo nga kanina, so talaga napapanahon ngayon kasi we face a new normal wherein most of us, we have physical inactivity. So ang mga students natin more on attending their classes online at saka busy sa paggagawa ng modules. So ito po yung challenge sa atin. So na dapat nating harapin, lalo na ang ating mga adolescents wherein madami po ang overweight and obese. So pwede naman natin silang i-encourage. So sa ating curriculum, so dapat po ay ma-incorporate din. So merong sanang certain minutes na wherein break muna sila and then paggawa sila ng merong sanang na-incorporate na physical activity or yung Zumba or di kaya ay exercise online. So dapat ay yung ma-incorporate yun on class. And then for the parents naman, so mas maganda din kasi na ma-supervise ng parents. Meron silang open communication sa kanilang mga anak, lalo na yung mga adolescents natin, na makatulong sila sa pagluluto para mas ma-supervise at sa kanilang mga kinakain, lalo na ang makasabay sila sa pagluluto at ganoon din sa pagkain para at least nandun yung open communication at nagagabayan ng parents kung ano ba talaga ang kinakain ng mga anak nila.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Josie. And we have a question here from an anonymous attendee. Ang tanong niya is talking about adolescents. Does FNRI has a study on teenage pregnancy in the Philippines? So I think yesterday there is a session wherein nag-present sila about teenage pregnancy. So pwede for presentations na hindi po natin na-view, pwede po ninyong balikan sa ating YouTube channel. So search nyo lang po yung ating session. And then for the next question is for Ms. Desnacido from Eric Ruiz Sagaysay. What are the possible ordinances or policies that the LGUs may adopt to improve the health of our overweight and obese constituents, most especially in this time of pandemic, wherein there are a lot of restrictions we need to follow? If there are policies, then how effective are these in the community setting?
So as I've said a while ago, so ito po talaga yung challenge sa atin sa LGU. So before po kasi merong sa mga certain mga places to kung saan pwedeng merong Zumba classes. But dahil nga po sa restrictions, so medyo na-limit po ito. So ang pwede lang po natin siguro magawan o ma-encourage sila so sa mga online po na mga exercises and then sa mga Zumba class. So dapat po talaga ang hindi ito pagbaliwala ng ganun din po ng LGU and mga parents and ganun din po yung mga teachers natin.
Yes, I agree. So marami po tayong mga instructional videos available online na pwede pong gayahin ng ating mga kabataan. They can do their exercise at home kahit hindi po sa mga playgrounds or sa labas. Okay? So meron pa po tayong question from Miss Jessica Mungkal. I think I can answer for this. Is the survey results available online? Yes, ma'am. All the results of our surveys, including past surveys, are available in our e-nutrition website. So meron po dong tab, publications and presentations. So all the PowerPoint presentations and the facts and figures were available in the e-nutrition website. Okay, and the next question is for Mr. C from an anonymous attendee. Was fat significantly higher in binge drinkers since alcohol mostly provides calories from fat?
Ay, hello ma'am. Unfortunately, ma'am, yung fat po is not included in the analysis. Kaya po wala po akong mabigay na accurate if it is significantly higher for binge or the non-binge po. So ayan po.
Okay, thank you, Mr. C. Okay, another question for Ms. Patalen from an anonymous attendee. So during the interviews, what are the top 2 reasons why people started limiting their cigarette smoking? Could it have been due to the increasing price or the advertisement drawn on the boxes?
For the interview or for the questions that we adopted from the WHO steps, we generated for the current smokers, former smokers. However, for the reasons why would they limit their consumption or their use of cigarettes, for example, ay hindi na po namin naitanong further. So medyo straightforward po yung questions in the ENNS. So we asked if they use or consume any tobacco products, and then if they are not consuming tobacco products currently, tatanungin namin sila kung formerly ay nakagamit sila ng tobacco or any nicotine product. So for in terms of tobacco policy, we also asked if they are aware or nakabasa na ba sila ng mga graphic health warnings sa mga cigarette packets, as well as if they are aware of the new executive order passed by our President Duterte on smoking ban or ban of smokers in public places. So essentially, ganun po yung questions natin in the survey. But in terms of yung reasons nila, why would they limit? If it is because of the cost or dahil because of health reasons, hindi na po namin naitanong yon in our survey.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Chona.
Pero we can do actually in-depth studies on the factors associated with the decreasing or declining trends in our survey results. We can do that po.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Chona. At this point, let me read a comment or remark from Ms. Jeanette Dawson. Sabi po niya, very nice topic. I wish the school should be alarmed on this matter, especially during pandemic. Urge the late adult to be more aggressive in engaging on physical activity and more cautious on their dietary intake. So thank you very much, Ms. Jeanette. Okay, another question for Ms. Desnacido from Dr. Chai of Philippine Pedia Society. Okay, you mentioned in your recommendation that parents need to monitor the food choices of adolescents, considering the differences in mental development between early, middle, and late adolescents. How do you think this can be done? What strategies can we employ?
Good afternoon po, Dr. Chai. So thank you po. So na-mention ko po kanina that the parents should or need monitor the food choices of adolescents. So pwede naman po, meron po tayong strategies. So sabi ko nga po kanina, pwede naman po natin silang makatulong sa the way kung paano lutuin ng pagkain, and then kasabay po sana nila tayong kasabay po sanang kumain ng mga anak, ang kanilang parents, para po mas nagagabayan pa. So i-encourage po natin ang mga anak natin na mas kumain sa loob ng bahay as compared po sa labas ng bahay, kasi kasi yung eating out po, so doon po talaga natin na-experience yung mga pagkain ng mga mas unhealthy na pagkain. So encourage po natin ang ating mga anak na kasabay natin kumain sa loob ng bahay po, para mas ma-monitor po natin sila at ma-encourage po sa mga healthy na pagkain po na kanilang kakainin.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Josie. This is another question for Mr. C. So why do you think, or what was the reason why WHO standard was used instead of the Asian standard? From Jace Andalo. Okay. Hello. I think Mr. Justin or Mr. C has unstable internet connection. Can we ask Miss Patalen to answer this question?
Is this for the measurement of standard drinks?
I think it's a standard drinks.
Since we use the validated questions or questionnaire from the WHO steps, it is part actually of that surveillance system where measurements for standard drinks are actually presented. So in order for us to have time trends, since we are collecting these risk factors since 1993, we still use the WHO reference or classification cutoff points actually in all our risk factors presented here. So they have actually they have released the standard drinks measurement in 2017 using the latest version of the WHO steps, and then we adapted that already for the ENNS. So ganun po, para comparable tayo with other countries, just in case magkaroon tayo ng global trends, because we also submit our data or survey results for the Global Disease Burden Study. So ganun po.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Patalen. So we have last two questions. Uh, the question is for Ms. Desnacido from an anonymous attendee. Regarding food choices, did the study consider the environment of participants? For example, the availability of food items being sold near their residences.
Hindi na po namin na-consider yung ganung factors. So, more on place of residence, so urbanity, yun lang po yung factors na tingnan namin, as well as the wealth quintile of the households po.
Okay. I hope that answers your question. And for the last question, I would like to throw in this question because I think this may be interesting also to our participants, because I often heard people talking about this regarding alcohol drinking, no? So may I ask Ms. Chona, is there a safe level or recommended number of drinks, say 1 glass of wine a day, that will be beneficial for one's health?
Unfortunately po, with the latest global burden disease study released in 2018, wala pong safe levels, okay, in terms of alcohol consumption. So for us, in terms of yung harm or yung pagdating sa danger na naibibigay in terms sa ating health, overall health ng alcohol drinking, wala daw pong safe levels ito. So marami tayong studies na actually mababangga or guidelines na mababangga because yung guidelines kasi, for example, sa CDC, moderate drinking kasi is 1 standard drink for women, 2 standard drinks for men. Pero in this global disease burden study released sa Lancet, wala daw pong safe levels. So dapat yun na lang po yung lagi nating tatandaan.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Chona. I think that is the only time we have for our question and answer. Again, for those questions we were not able to accommodate, our panelists will approach you offline. Or for those who wants clarification or have additional questions, you may also message or approach our presenters offline. So thank you very much. Indeed, a very interesting discussion we have this afternoon. Our speakers deserve some recognition. And with that, let us proceed to the awarding of certificates. Let me read the citation. Republic of the Philippines, Department of Science and Technology, Food and Nutrition Research Institute, in cooperation with the Food and Nutrition Research Institute, Employees Association Incorporated, presents the Certificate of Appreciation to Ms. Chona F. Patalen for sharing her invaluable time and knowledge as presenter of the paper entitled Assessment of Selected Risk Factors for Non-Communicable Diseases Among Filipino Adolescents and Adults, Expanded National Nutrition Surveys, during the 47th FNRI Seminar Series Virtual Edition, with the theme, Good Nutrition in the First 1,000 Days is Starting Right is the Right Start, given the 7th day of July 2021 at the Department of Science and Technology, Food and Nutrition Research Institute. Signed, Charmaine A. Duante, Overall Chair, 47th FNRI Seminar Series, and Ms. Leah C. Dahay, the President of FNRI Employees Association Incorporated. Also signed, Imelda Angeles Agdepa, PhD, our Director 4 and Scientist 2. Okay, Certificate of Appreciation with the same citation is also awarded to Mr. James Andre Justin PC for sharing his invaluable time and knowledge as presenter for the paper titled Alcohol Drinking and Nutritional Status Among Adolescents in the Philippines, 2018 Expanded National Nutrition Survey. Same certificate of appreciation is given to Ms. Josie P. Desnacido for her presentation titled Determinants of Overweight and Obesity Among Filipino Adolescents, 2018 Expanded National Nutrition Surveys, Philippines. Okay, congratulations and job well done to our presenters. Before we end, may we request our presenters, together with Dr. Agdepa, Dr. Calibo, and all those in the panelist room for quick virtual opportunity, photo opportunity. Okay. Okay, are we ready? Then, okay, thank you very much. So that ends the technical session 4. So we would like to thank also everyone for your participation, and we hope that you have learned a lot from today's session. Let me read some few reminders. Please answer the post test at the FSS website. The post test will serve as your logout for this technical session. Failure to answer post test will mean that you did not log out for this technical session. You will also be asked to input an FSS technical session code, and for this session, the FSS technical session code is capital M, capital Q, capital L, and 734. So MQL 734. Failure to provide the correct FSS technical code will nullify your post test. Hence, you will not receive certificate for the session. Only registered participants will be given certificates for the 47th DOST FNRI Seminar Series. Certificates will be available once you have completed the post test and feedback evaluation forms for all the technical sessions until the last day of, which is on Friday. So you will be given ample time, so 3 days after the event, to accomplish all the post test and feedback evaluation forms. And certificates will be available starting on July 12. On accomplishing your evaluation form, please be reminded to complete the data on profession, PRC number, and expiry date, as these are requirements for your CPD units. Okay, we have some announcement. The Philippine Association of Nutrition Incorporated cordially invites you to PAN 2021 Annual Convention with the theme Malnutrition, Tulong-Tulong Nating Labanan. First 1,000 days, sama-sama nating tutukan. This coming July 22 to 23, 2021. PAN Convention is an annual event hosted by PAN Incorporated to unite its members, student and provincial chapters, professional individuals, and multi-sectoral planners and implementers of the first 1,000 days programs and projects at the local and national levels. PAN has also invited renowned individuals in the field of health and nutrition to discuss on topics regarding the nutrition problems of our country encounters today. So let us register now at http://bit or the link provided to you in the slide. The registration fee is at 200 pesos. For inquiries or concerns, you may reach them or message them to their page or via email at panconvention2021@gmail.com. So magkita-kita po tayo. #PanConvention2021. We look forward that you will stay with us until the 9th day of July, as we continue the 47th FNRI Seminar Series. So 2 araw na lang po, tapos na tayo sa ating seminar series. For our tomorrow session, our panelists will tackle topics on nutrition and aging in the morning and household nutrition in the afternoon. For sure, this will be another exciting set of presentations. Magkita-kita po tayo uli bukas para sa mas madami pa pong interesadong mga topics. The 47th DOST Seminar Series would like to acknowledge our sponsors. For our gold sponsors, we have Nutridense Food Manufacturing Corporation, a leading food manufacturer of healthy, nutritious, and research-based food products distributed nationwide. Next is the Swiss Pharma Research Laboratories Incorporated, a leading manufacturer of pharmaceutical products in the Philippines, and a technology adopter of the enhanced Nutriban. Our silver sponsor, Maan's Bake Shop from Davao City, one of the newest licensees of the DOST FNRI developed enhanced Nutriban technology. And for our bronze sponsors, the Department of Science and Technology, National Capital Region, Regional Office, and then Mary Lois Food Products and Merchandising from Tumawini, Isabela. Also, Waffle Time and Great Foods Concepts Incorporated in Iloilo City, and RCJ Trading and General Merchandise. Great Foods Concepts, INC, and the RCJ Trading and General Merchandise from Tanawan, Batangas. For our other major sponsors, we also are grateful to our partners, the Philippine Association of Nutrition Incorporated, the First Analytical Services and Technical Cooperative, FAST Laboratories, Arteche Bread House from Eastern Samar, the JA Fruits and Vegetables Processing from Sinamar Norte, San Macho, Isabela, Ruben's Bake Shop from Catbalogan, Samar, Wellness Pro Incorporated, Science Savings and Loan Association Incorporated or SLI, and the D. Hermanos Pizzas from Tangog City, Misamis Occidental. Thank you very much to our sponsors for your continued support. So that's it for the technical session 4. I think before we end our webinar, can we flash again the advertisement or announcement for the hiring of medical technologists and nutritionist dietitians? I think there is a question in the chat box. Okay, so for those who want to apply, please contact or email your CVs and copy of your PRC IDs on the email provided in your in the slides. Okay, so that's it. Maraming salamat. This has been your moderator, Christina G. Malabad. Again, thank you very much for your time. Have a nice day. Always stay safe and God bless everyone.
are young, while the parents are working, while the stress is tough, just remember the following. Go for a daily dose of nutrition. Go for a balanced meal with variation. Go for a run or two of exercise. Aim for healthy lifestyles. Inspire others to do the same. Story of life is no game. Life doesn't need to end that fast. If you choose health, the longer you last. Go for a daily dose of nutrition. Go for a balanced meal with variation. Go for a round or two of exercise. Aim for healthy lifestyles. Go for a daily dose of nutrition. Go for a balanced meal with variation. Go for a round or two of exercise. Aim for healthy lifestyle. Live longer, happier, better with FNRI.
Halina kayo, kain na tayo ng brown rice. Masarap na mas masustansya pa kesa white rice. Vitamina, mineral, siksik pa rin, pampalusog ng katawan ng bata't matanda. Para sa ating lahat, ang brown rice. Calcium,
Papatibay ng buto
thiamine,
para sa healthy na.
niacin sa panunaw na maayos, magnesium, taga-ayos ng katawan mo. Halina kayo, kain na tayo ng brown rice. Masarap na mas masustansya pa kesa white rice. Vitamina, mineral, siksik pa rin, pampalusog ng katawan ng bata't matanda. Para sa ating lahat, ang brown rice. Sagot sa malnutrition, iwas cancer, diabetes at sakit sa puso. Konting kain lang, mabubusog ka na. Halina, tulungan ang bayan. Halina, mag-brown rice na. Mag-brown rice na. Tinggang Pinoy. Tinggang Pinoy.
Alam mo na ba na may bagong gabay para sa lakas at kalusugan mo? Simple lang at madaling tanda. Ang tawag dito'y pinggang Pinoy. Gulay at prutas, 1/2 ng plato. Kanin o tinapay, 1/3 ng plato mo. Isda o karne, 1/6 ng plato mo. Ito na ang pinggang Pinoy. Sa modelong pinggan, sukat na sukat, bawat pangkat ng pagkain. Pagkaing balanse, sa nakatatanda, kainan din sa bata.
Pinggang Pinoy.
Gulay at prutas, 1/2 ng plato.
Pinggang Pinoy.
Kanin o tinapay, 1/3 ng plato mo.
Pinggang Pinoy.
Isda o karne, 1/6 ng plato mo.
the parents are working while the stress is tough. Just remember the following. Go for a daily dose of nutrition. Go for a balanced meal with variation. Go for a round or two of exercise. Aim for healthy lifestyles. Inspire others to do the same. Story of life is no game. Life doesn't need to end that fast. If you choose health, the longer you last. Go for a daily dose of nutrition. Go for a balanced meal with variation. Go for a round or two of exercise.